Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Kaousias, and I was so excited when UT alumni asked me to take over their Facebook page live. So I have a few minutes, and I'm pretty excited to be here. So I'm an 88 graduate from undergraduate, and I graduated in political science and economics, and a 92 graduate of the UT Law School. So go Big Orange. Go Vols. I can't wait when I can scream that out with all of you in a stadium. That day is coming, but right now I think we're calling it a global pandemic. And, what I keep hearing everybody saying is it's unprecedented, it's unprecedented. And it is unprecedented. We have never had an opportunity for the whole world to pause. We get to see what that means, and that's going to have good things and bad things, and everything in between. But what it does to us is sort of interesting because if you're like me, you're experiencing a range of emotions or a range of moods and probably more concern about the future. And of course, everybody doesn't have the same circumstances. But with this global pandemic, all of a sudden we're faced sort of immediately that we may not have the right controls in place for tomorrow. Or if we believed we knew what would happen tomorrow, that we could do things a certain way and assure an outcome tomorrow, all of that is sort of been thrown up in the air. At least that's how I feel, and I know that's how a lot of my clients feel. So, what do you do with that? Because it can be very disturbing. And it's a lot of uncertainty. It's essentially uncertainty, and the uncertainty that we can protect ourselves and those we love from any harm, that we can make the right decisions for our benefit and our well-being and the benefit and well-being of others. The news changes all the time. You do something today, tomorrow you wear masks. What about all those days you didn't wear masks? All that kind of uncertainty with regard to decisions. And I think that's one of the first things I want to talk about is the uncertainty of the times and how in some ways it's always been like this. The scale of it has not always been like this, and sort of the similarity that we're all experiencing a similar set of facts at the same time globally has not always been like this. But the fact that we're not guaranteed tomorrow has been like this, or that this moment might be all we can really count on. It's always been so, and it will always be so. So, in that way, these times are kind of interesting. They're a bit of an opportunity to find out you know, how are you going to live this life? Because it's kind of all that we know that we got. Uh, One of the things that I've found really difficult is this work-life balance is one thing, but what if your work-life balance becomes disrupted and if you're fortunate enough to work, you're working from home. And so all of a sudden, home, work, there's no difference. And I've had to struggle with that, and maybe you all have too, because I found that everything is this screen, and of course, this screen, and my big screen that you can't see. So everything is through these screens, and I'm sort of connecting through all of these screens, and I don't have any other choice. That's how it feels to me. I have to do this for my clients. I have to stay up to date on what's going on medically, how things changed. I'm connecting with people like you through this screen. I'm connecting. My whole life feels like it's on a screen. So I'm sitting more than I would normally sit, ironically enough, even though I'm home. And I'm on my devices more than I would normally be on my devices. So that's what I'm experiencing. I'm kind of curious if y'all are having that too. And there's one thing that has brought me a lot of almost solace, I guess I'd call it solace, and that is going outside, because it breaks my pattern of focusing all my attention sort of in this one small way, like a funnel. And it allows a broader sense of connection almost. And so that's one thing, go outside. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. And this is true for all meditation and all yoga and all movement. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour run. It doesn't have to be uh, something something really big that we can write down in our scheduler and say, this was significant. Because one moment of noticing or one moment of pausing, it's not a one-to-one ratio with our linear sense of time. So one moment, one instant of noticing is not equal to one instant of regular everyday life. And that's a great thing. That's good news for us because it means that if you're in the business of combating bad posture, stress, anxiety, anger, sadness, all these things, they that you don't have to go at it like sort of a bulldozer or a sledgehammer. You all are writing some nice comments. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So go outside, and it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be a moment, and notice what it feels like. What does the air feel like on your skin? What does the wind feel like if it's windy? What does it feel like? Is it cold and you expected it to be warmer? And you just notice. And you don't have to have 15 acres or even one manicured acre for this. This can happen anywhere. Go outside of your apartment building, go outside of your home, and just experience sort of the atmosphere. And things unfold and it unwinds. So that is something I found helps break my pattern of staying glued to these screens. I feel like I have to be here, but maybe I don't. So go outside, and it doesn't have to be fancy. Sitting is a problem. There's a lot of science out there, and we got UT grads here, so we can all Google. There's a lot of science about how bad actually sitting is for you. The good news is, as I said earlier, it's not a one-to-one ratio. You don't have to have one moment of non-sitting for every moment of sitting. That's not how it works. So move the body. So just notice, and I'm not going to do a lot of yoga. Y'all have to ask me back if you want to go to class. Move your body in space and change the geometry. So do notice how you're sitting. Change your geometry and your relationship of every bone to gravity. And this sounds fancy, but it's not. That means stand up. All right? That means do this. Move these arms back. And just do this. Open the top chest. Because it's not one-to-one ratio, one time of doing that combats far more than all the times of doing this. So get up, roll your shoulders back, intertwine your fingers, press your palms down, and lift your chest up. This also helps the top lungs. It gets air in the top lungs. It opens up the chest. It combats those bad postural habits. Sometimes you'll have more feelings of well-being, a little bit more feelings of euphoria. And so it helps combat a lot of different feelings. It's a form of back bend in the yoga world. It's a very mild back bend, and it's very important, and it will really help with all the sitting blues. It is a beautiful day in Knoxville. That is right, Dwayne Wiles. It's gorgeous. Thank you for noticing, because sometimes we don't. We talk ourselves out of noticing how connected we are, right? And the outdoors can help us get this sense more easily, but it's not necessarily the only way. It seems like we resonate with that a little easier. Let's see, question. How would you suggest getting started with kind of giving yourself a break from your device's internet when you especially now have this feeling that everything in the news is extremely significant? Yes, I understand this. And everything's shifting at work. it's a great question because for me, it comes down to feeling like I'm going to get left behind a little bit. Like I'm not going to be able to manage my circumstances in a way which is going to be for the best. And in these sorts of times, that feeling gets bigger. I think that's how I feel. It gets bigger, but and every decision becomes like this fulcrum point. Oh, if I make a bad decision, I could die. If I make a bad decision or a wrong decision, my 96-year-old father, who I am the primary contact with, he could get sick and die, or my child can get ill, all these things. So it gets really, really heightened and really, really aggravated. Like that's how I feel about it. So my answer to that is you just do it. And you sort of do it on faith at first, like break away. And you do it on faith at first, not necessarily knowing it's going to be beneficial. You just do it. And then you go outside and don't make it big. Like, don't pre-plan it. I'm going to go outside and then I'm going to feel better. None of that. Just walk out there and notice, what's it feel like? And you direct your attention to basically your body sensations. Now, we can do this right now if y'all want to. Right now, whatever you're doing right now, if you're watching this standing up, and there may be some, or if you're sitting, notice everything touching something solid. And you may have to go inside. You know, if it might be easier for you to close your eyes and do this. Everything touching something solid. So that would be my hands touching my thighs, my feet touching the ground, my sit bones touching my chair, and then release into what's solid. Accept the support of that solidity and release into it. Take just a pause there. And then we have somebody asking for breathing exercises. While we're doing this, in your chair, take your hands and reach behind you. And if you don't have an opening at the back of your chair seat, go sort of to the outside. But find an opening, and if you need to scoop forward and just put the palms of your palms down and your fingers facing away from you, do that. So we've released again into everything solid. Now straighten the spine by pushing down with the hands, lift the chest, roll back the shoulders, and breathe. Take 3 intentional, aware breaths. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and exhale through your third. And then release all that and see if you can tell a difference. Dwayne, try that and tell me if you actually feel the slightest difference. And again, we're not looking for, a magnificent change. The slightest shift is really, really a big deal. So we've addressed how to take a break, which for me, it really did take me going outside and physically creating a break from this sort of space. It's almost like it creates its own kind of space. Physically create that break by going outside. And if you don't have an outside to go to, if you're in an apartment, go to your next room and get away from it and stand there, stand up, notice everything or whatever first comes to your mind, just notice it. Hands behind like this, roll the shoulders back, press down and away, any amount. If it's this amount and you feel it, that's fine. Any amount, lift the chest. And breathe into that and take 3 breaths. Now that's a small thing, but it's a big thing. The other thing about relaxing, and I kind of want to talk about this because I feel like this can get hard. It's 4:45. I think we've got like another 5 minutes. But one of the things I find that I have to be careful about is beating myself up, that I ought to be feeling something in particular. Like today I'm having a really good day. I feel very hopeful. I feel very optimistic. I feel like there's lots of potential with this situation. And that's okay. That's a perfectly fine feeling. Uh, a couple weeks ago, and this can come and go, I felt so down, like, oh my God, so concerned about everything. Or it's unfair for me to feel well when so many people are not feeling well. And I'm doing nothing. It feels like nothing. And then we have like healthcare workers in the front line. I think the point here is just not to be too hard on yourself. That the truth is that it's always been so that our mind comes and goes. It's up and down, up and down. And this is an opportunity to see it more clearly. So you kind of start noticing your patterns and not being afraid of what you feel, if that makes sense. I'd be interested if that makes sense to you all, because that can be a hard thing to talk about. And there's a lot of resistance in our culture and just the way we're raised sometimes to talk about that. So it's a little bit broader than psychologically viewing how you're feeling. It's a little bit more like, how is this really for me right now? And just accepting that it's okay for you to feel how you feel. So that's one thing. Just don't beat yourself up. You're doing the best you can. I'm doing the best I can. We're all doing the best we can. All right. On breathing, there's a lot of really fancier breathing techniques in yoga traditions, and I've spent my fair amount of time practicing some, leaving them. And I find those kinds of techniques are better suited for someone who really wants to practice regularly. The main thing on breathing, because the diaphragm, in the yoga world, we would say that's the intersection of the psychological body, the psychological aspect of our lives, the physical aspect of our lives. It's a muscle, it's connected through tendons to bones. And so it's a physical, psychological, emotional, it's highly emotional. It contributes to your emotional state, your diaphragm, where it's tense, where it's not tense, and also your contemplative, more spiritual side. So the diaphragm is almost like an intersection of all of those parts of being human. So what do we do about that? Well, simply opening up the chest and counteracting this. When we sit, and I don't know if you can see this, but when we sit, we have a tendency to drop here. We slump and drop here. Well, that actually puts pressure on the front diaphragm, and it doesn't allow an evenness around the whole rib cage. And you can go Google how the diaphragm is connected, because it's kind of interesting. So lifting the spine through simple ways, pushing down on your chair, pushing down on anything solid to lift up, opening the arms back, opening the front chest, opening this front amount will also give you some relief and stretching of the front diaphragm, which by slumping, we tend to make that uneven on the front and back body. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend doing this because it's back bending. I don't know if we've talked to back bending. There are plenty of online yoga resources now more than ever. Your yoga teachers, if you've been going to yoga, they're like everybody else, are freaking out. I mean, what can you say? Yoga studios are closed. There's more and more online classes. You can go to your local yoga studio and see if they have online classes, and they probably do. So check those out. We had a question about that. Get outside. I think we've answered everything. Y'all feel free to write me something. I'm not sure if I covered everything. One thing they told me with these fabulous UT alumni folks said, you're an expert on this. And I thought, well, that's, it's a big topic. Meditation, breathing, yoga. I mean, come on. But there's one thing I know better than anybody else, and that's my own experience of what does it feel like to be me. And that's true for you. You are up to living your life. It's your life, and you're living it for you, and you're the expert at that. You know that really well. So with that, I just want to tell you all, may you be well, May you and everybody you love and everybody you may not love, may we all be well. And we're all into this together. We're all in this together. We're going to get through it together. And we're all going to have to come to grips with the fact that at some point or another, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty always, even in normal times. And that maybe that's okay. Maybe that's an opportunity to really understand what it means to be alive. Thank you all. Thank you, UT. Go Vols. Come on. I mean, we got a lot of sports to catch up on. You know what I'm saying? All right, folks. Thank you.